Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. This is Anthony L. Wolf, your loyal indie diarist, writer, content manager, gamer, a lot of things, as you know. And today with me is another incredible guest from the indie game community. It's Erik Andersen, tuning in straight from the US. So, Erik, just tell the listeners a bit about yourself. What do you do? Where are you based exactly? I already spoiled you're from the US, but yeah, I'll trust that you you know what to say there.
Yes. Hi. My name is Erik. I'm an indie developer. I've been working on a game called So to Speak, which is a language learning game for the past 3.5 years. And I'm based in the United States in upstate New York. Before that, I worked in academia. I taught game design and programming.
Perfect. Okay, so you're in upstate New York, and you've been working on your game for about 3 years, you said. How's that going? How's the development of So to Speak going?
It's been a really great experience. It's been interesting to try to pursue my dream of making a game for learning Japanese that I think is really fun and interesting. It's also a challenge to work on one thing for a long time independently. And I've had to learn how to maintain consistency over time and how to kind of focus on a process of consistently making this game. And so that has had ups and downs.
Well, but it does sound like you're very excited about working on your game for the first time. But we'll dive deeper into that because I think we connected over our love for languages, and there are some things that that I'm going to tell you about, So to Speak, and what makes me excited about it myself. But first of all, let's just begin with a little bit of an icebreaker, and this is something I ask pretty much everybody on the show. What's one game you think everyone should play at least once?
Outer Wilds.
Oh, great, because I'm playing that one right now, so that's good to know.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
and the person who told me about it told me that he would not tell me anything about it. That like it's important to just go in without knowing anything. And so I have that same philosophy as well. I love it, but like I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel the same way. Like, I wanted to tell a friend of mine, this is such a great game, but I can't tell you anything about it. So you need to go into it and learn by yourself. And this is strange because, like, it doesn't always happen with games in general. Like, you go online and you see a lot of spoilers, and people generally talk about the main gameplay loop and share things and all of that. But with Outer Wilds, it's such a closed experience. It's something that you have to experience yourself. I'm like 10 hours in and I love it. And I'm just still exploring the first few planets around the main star and the sun, really. But then I'm about to push to the rest of the external part of the solar system. And I can't wait for that because it's going to be so great. But yeah, great stuff and great suggestion. Outer Wilds is amazing. But yeah, so, well, Outer Wilds is obviously the recent, but which games do you remember playing growing up? Like, do you think those had an influence on your current work?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I played all kinds of games. I really liked SimCity. I really liked some Sierra adventure games like King's Quest, and also a couple of educational games like Incredible Machine, Island of Dr. Brain. And some of those games I thought were really great. And some of the educational games I thought were really great, and they were kind of inspiring. And I thought, like, oh, wow, this would be a cool thing to focus on.
Okay, yeah, no, well, in my case, I grew up playing a lot of platforms and all of that. But then, you know, over time, I learned to love a lot of other genres or whatever. But so basically, now I play anything. Action RPGs, exploration, sim games, resource management games. I love all of it, even rhythm games. I just find them very fun. So, and that's what makes me excited about your game, because I like playing a lot of different things as a gamer. And So to Speak seems interesting because it taps into my own love for languages. You could tell from my name, probably, if you've seen my full name, that I'm Italian. But I studied English, so now I moved to the UK like 6-7 years ago now. And I just love languages in general. But I have zero motivation to learn Japanese because I feel like it's going to be a hard one to do. But maybe if I have a game that teaches me how to do it, then that's going to make it a lot more interesting. But yeah, we'll dive into So to Speak in a second. But like, I'm curious about another thing about yourself. Like, when did you realize you wanted to be a game developer? Like, what was your aha moment? Like that moment you said, "Yeah, this is what I want to do."
Oh, very, very early. Playing these games that I talked about when I was a kid made me think, wow, this is great, and I really feel like they can be used to teach interesting things also in addition to the entertainment. And I think that there's also really untapped potential. Like there's game designs I could sort of imagine that I immediately realized don't exist yet. So from very early on.
Okay, yeah, well, that's always good to know. So you knew very very much early on that you wanted to do this, which is great. You did mention your background in academia, though. So what made you do the jump specifically?
Yeah, so I studied computer science when I was an undergrad, and that was to learn how to do programming so that I could pursue a job. I wasn't sure yet necessarily whether I was 100% set on doing game design or just some other software engineering. But I started doing research projects when I was an undergrad, and some of those focused on computer graphics. And so when I was graduating and trying to figure out what to do, I thought, oh, maybe I'll go further within academia, learn more about computer graphics, and then maybe do some more research in that area. And then in grad school, then my advisor really wanted to work on educational games. So we worked on a math game. I worked with a group of people. There's actually I think 15 people who were involved with this total, other grad students and a bunch of undergraduates who helped do some of the art and design of it. And that game was called Refraction. We released it on Congregate. It was a really great, fun project. And that made me think that, well, maybe I could go and teach this. And so I did that for about 5 years. But I really, really, really wanted to try to make something on my own. I was really driven by that. So that's how I ended up with this particular project.
Okay, well, that sounds like your motivation to become a game developer was just doing something by yourself, something really creative that you could just express yourself with. That's really great. But when you're actually when you're creating, or when you're maybe, because do you have a team? I don't think you do have a team. I think you're just a solo developer working on, so to speak, right? And when you're creating, what is your biggest source of inspiration? Like, do you look at other games? Do you look at art? Do you look at films, games, other music, anything really?
Yeah, I look at all of those things. I'm working mostly by myself on the game. My wife is a native Japanese speaker, and she's helped with some of the writing. My brother is doing the music, but otherwise I've done all the development myself. It's a combination of a lot of things. Like, some of it is inspired by my own travel in Japan and elsewhere too, of just that experience of being somewhere and trying to figure out what's going on has been really motivating for me to try to capture that within a video game. And then also I looked at other games to make it more concrete about what I wanted to do. So Heaven's Vault was a huge source of inspiration, where that really proved to me that this must be possible. Like, I had fun learning a language in that game, but the language is fictional. So
yeah, Heaven's Vault.
It must be possible to make something like this for a real game. Yeah.
I mean, Heaven's Vault is a masterpiece. So, you said Heaven's Vault inspired you to work on your game. At least you said that to me over DM. Can you tell me more about that story? Like, when did you realize that you wanted to start working on, so to speak?
So I knew that I wanted to make a game for language learning. I was particularly interested in that. I've studied Japanese for a long time. I think probably more than 15 years by now.
Well, having a Japanese wife, I suppose that's useful sometimes.
Yeah. This is it. Started before I met her, but then after I did, then I had a lot more motivation to continue. It's been great, but also just so hard. Like, I mean, this is a biased opinion, but there's nothing I've invested so much time into and I'm still so awful at. Other than learn Japanese. Like, it's just of the things that humans try to learn, it's just an unbelievable amount of content. It's so difficult. And And I really wish that other people who try to learn could have a better experience than I did. Even though my experience has been fine, like the teachers that I have were really passionate and great, and I'm really grateful to them. But it's just so hard. So making a game for language was something I was interested in. And that was around the time that I was thinking about trying to go out and make something on my own. And I happened to play Heaven's Vault right about at that time. I saw the screenshots and I thought, oh my gosh, like this might be it, right? Like this might be the game that really
it's interesting.
Makes language really fun.
It's Heaven's Vault is just so great. I just finished it recently, and as you've seen, because we've connected over my screenshots on my Twitter profile, and on the podcast Twitter profile anyway. And it was just so captivating from the start. It was just so great to just be immersed in that story and follow Six and of course Aliyah. And follow their journey and learn about the Empire. And being a big history geek, you can imagine that had a big effect on me too, because it was like uncovering manufacts and trying to piece together the story. At the end, with no spoilers, but at the end, when you see the timeline, when the game actually opens the timeline in front of your eyes and you piece together everything that you've discovered so far, that it's just amazing, because you're just going through the whole story and you understand, okay, so this was the ancient empire, then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and you start understanding how things came to be in that universe, in that world. It's just an amazing game. But it's interesting what you said about the fact that Heaven's Vault arrived at the exact perfect time for you to start working on, so to speak, and to be inspired. And I think it happens with a lot of games. Like, I don't know how, but a lot of games seem to just get to you or find you at the exact perfect time of your life when you need them and when they can have the most impact on you. It happens with some films, it happens with a lot of entertainment products, but games specifically, because they're so immersive, then they just hit you a lot harder than anything else. But yeah, it's great. I'm curious about your interest in Japanese, because you said you started 15 years ago, and even before meeting your partner. So where does your love for Japanese come from? And do you have just a love for all languages, or is it just something specific to Japanese?
I have a love for all languages.
Okay.
I also studied Russian, and I studied Latin and Chinese, and Mandarin Chinese. And it was, so it's not like, I do like more languages than just Japanese. I think Japanese specifically I got interested in because of Nintendo games growing up.
Oh, right, okay.
And also I had some friends that were taking Japanese classes at my university, and they were always talking about it. And so I didn't want to be left out. So that was part of the reason I took the class.
So like the fear of missing out and all of that. But yeah. I can relate with your love for languages. It's just, I studied foreign languages school and studied some extra languages even in uni. It's great to learn a whole new system. And depending on how you work and how creative of a person you are, you also enjoy putting together those things. I can imagine for someone who studied computer science, it must be really great to piece together the different pieces of a language and then have them take form in your head. So yeah, that's really great. So let's go into a bit of a more serious question. So I think we touched upon this over the course of this chat, but why are you a game developer? What drives you forward?
That's a really interesting question, and it's something that's a little difficult to answer, and I think it's really coming from deep within, that it's almost like I can't stop it. It's like that, I just think constantly about this and about this game, and if I were doing something else, I would still be thinking about this. I feel really lucky that I've been able to let that out somewhere because it's really a passion. It's
something I've heard a number of times. Like other people in these chats say, it's the only thing I can do. It's the only thing that I want to do. It's just something that comes from within. So yeah, I can understand that feeling. It's the same with me and writing. I just love writing so much. So yeah. Building upon this, what is it that you love? And what is it that you hate about being a game developer, indie game developer specifically?
I really like the creative freedom like the ability to try to take this exciting thing in my head and then make it real. And the thing I hate is how difficult it is to make it real. That there's always this huge gap of like, I just think that this will be easy, this will be natural, and then I try to make it and it's not at all. It's like terrible. I keep bugging my friends over and over to like try the game as I made it. And, you know, sometimes it works, but oftentimes they look at me and they're like, this is horrendous. This is so difficult to use. And so that's the positive and negative, I think.
Okay, well, and you have seen that this conversation has gotten a bit deeper over time. Do you ever feel lonely or discouraged as an indie game developer, and how do you cope with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's very lonely in the sense that I'm working just by myself, and so I didn't realize before I started this how much of the structure and kind of deadlines of what you would experience at a typical job were important for me staying happy and creating motivation. And so I've had to sort of create that structure for myself in the absence of all that.
Okay, perfect. So we're about to wrap up, but here's a little bit of a couple fun questions actually to just lighten the mood after these three more serious ones. Imagine writing a letter to yourself, but 10 years younger. What would you say?
Okay. This is can I think for a minute? Actually?
Yeah. You don't have to answer straight away yet.
I think I would say two things. So one of them is to try to be a little bit less fearful and to be a little bit more accepting of taking risks earlier on. And then secondly, to try to focus on things that are important for staying healthy that I was not at that point, like exercising.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Like I definitely was not prioritizing that. And then later on, actually during the pandemic, I really needed to do something. Like I was sitting in my chair all day and it was getting bad. And so I started running and that has become a hobby that I've really enjoyed and benefited a lot from and kept doing very regularly. And so I wish that I started that earlier because I didn't realize what I was missing out on.
All right. Yeah, I think it's a very, very good answer. So really good. And now the ultimate fun question that a lot of developers love actually on this show. If you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you create?
Oh, this one that I'm doing now. I mean,
perfect.
Absolutely.
The easiest answer ever. Yeah, there you go.
But I guess what I would add to that is the ability to continue it until it actually covered all of Japanese. So what I have now is just very basic stuff. It's quite a large number of words. I think there's over 400 now, but it's still just a tiny fraction of what you actually need to learn in order to be good at Japanese. And so there's a lot of tools and games that exist now that have, I think, sort of a similar issue that like they're really great at teaching you the beginning part of it, the basic part of it, but there's really not much that could take somebody that doesn't know anything all the way to being proficient, to be able to have a job if they worked in that country or to really communicate in depth with somebody.
Okay.
And so my dream would be, if I had an infinite amount of resources, would be able to continue this long enough to create such a product that you could actually become great at Japanese by playing it.
Okay, yeah. So I'd say that the drive behind creating this game is helping other people as well, which is very noble, and also letting them have fun while they do it. So yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah. So about So to Speak now, to just wrap it all up. Do you have a demo coming up? Do you have a demo already available? Do you have a release date in mind? How can listeners try out your game in the near future?
Yes, there's a demo that's available now, and it's on Steam, and I am hoping to release it later this year.
Perfect. Okay. Very much looking forward to that. All right. So, well, as a very last thing from me, where can other people find you? And if they do find you, how can they support you?
So the main thing that helps so much is that people play the demo and then tell me that they played the demo and what they think.
Perfect. Okay.
And so people have been leaving feedback on the Steam forums. People have been joining the Discord that I set up for the game and leaving feedback there. Really anywhere is fine. But it helps me so much to know that somebody is trying it and understanding what's working and what's not working. There's some things I know about that need to be improved, but I'm always surprised by people who have really great opinions about things that I didn't quite yet realize could be changed in a way that could be better.
Yeah, it's always different when you give it to the audience, to the players, isn't it? They always find new things that you hadn't considered. Well, thank you so much for your time, Erik. It's been such a lovely chat and lovely to connect with a fellow language lover. And just everybody who's listening to this episode, just follow Erik on social. I will leave all the necessary links in the description of the episode. And I will also shout out on social media and tag you whenever this episode comes out. So you will be able to find him on my Twitter posts. But yeah.
Thanks so much. It's been really great talking to you. This has been fun. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Erik, who's been such an amazing guest, and I've loved speaking to another fellow languages lover. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. You can find it on all the major podcasting platforms, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere. You can also find this show on Twitter, and that's currently the only way you can support the show, by dropping me a follow on Twitter at the Indie Diarist. Also, if you are an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I'm always looking to hear from talented developers who have a beautiful story to tell, and I would very much love to hear from you.